So a little Europe versus Korea action here on Sandworm. In the top position, it is ShoWTimE. And on the bottom, we have Solar. ShoWTimE, not actually playing in a lot of the weekly cups. So I haven't cast them in a little bit. Has some pretty good PvZ. I think they played a Big Brain Bouts somewhat recently. I just had it up. There we go. Yeah, they played a Big Brain Bouts recently, and it looks like Solar did win that, but it was 3-2, so it was very close. Before that, ShoWTimE won. Before that, Solar. Before that, actually, so late last year, ShoWTimE was on a tear. He went to a 5-series win streak against Solar. Of course, before that, Solar had a 4-win streak. It seems like they don't actually have as much of a history as I expected. It's not quite extensive, but it does favor Solar overall. It's very close in games. So, should be a good PvZ. And I'm always a big ShoWTimE fan. I respect his style of play, even though I also really like Hero, who has a completely opposite style of Protoss play. I love both. Hero's got the wacky aggression, and ShoWTimE has got the precision, pinpoint Protoss play, where you just, when everything works, it works in this beautiful tapestry of defensive Protoss. He's also gotten better over the years at choosing his time to strike, so, you know, unfortunately, one of the things that he was known for was, you know, kind of letting games go, or always doing the same thing a lot of the time. Some people didn't maybe appreciate watching ShoWTimE try and defend perfectly, as that can be the non-flashy way of playing StarCraft and watching StarCraft, but I think he's gotten to be even more exciting as he's added in the times of which, you know, you're kind of second-guessing, is it the right time to move out? Is he actually going to win with this? And he does. A little more of that Hero-esque element to it, where he sees a moment to strike, and it's not 100% clear, but there's a good chance it'll work, and he actually goes for it. So ShoWTimE is going to open up with a Stargate, but, you know, it's PvZ, and just a reminder, because I know we don't cast as much of it as we once did, this is completely normal. Still, the bread and butter, if there is something even more common than bread and butter, it's the rice. It's the rice of PvZ. I guess it depends on what region you're from, which is more popular. But if you're European, it's your bread and butter. If you're Asian, it's the rice. And North Americans, I don't even know what we have. It's our diabetic sugar of PvZ. Oracle, maybe one more Oracle. Also, just totally normal. Hero does a little more of that mixing up what comes out of the Stargate, try and confuse and wow his opponent. ShoWTimE, not as much. And with the Oracle, it does look to be a pretty typical stuff. The Adepts do barge on into the main base, though. Pretty aggressive maneuver, but it might actually net them maybe 2 drones. It's only going to be 2. That's not really worth it, but they also were kind of trapped. That was, you know, very normal speed timing. Not particularly fast, but definitely not slow either. And so even if they had a shaded out, they would not have survived. Oracle going to try and do some damage. Getting 3 drones while living is acceptable, as long as it lives, right? Not what you want, though, back at home. Uh-oh. Well, it's not the end of the world to have all this happen, but this is the better start for the Zerg player. I am giving Solar a little bit more benefit here. I do think that ShoWTimE comes in as a slight underdog. So I'm like, oh gosh, on ShoWTime's side. Solar's doing everything right. Solar defended the Adepts, but then ShoWTimE also maybe over aggression with the Adepts, right? They could have maybe returned back home as opposed to trying to get more drones. They could have never gone into the main, thinking it was too dangerous in the first place, thus being back at home the third to defend against those Adepts. Ditto on the Oracle, and it's just, I mean, it's the chance you take when you send literally all of your units across the map. is that the Lings will kill them and counterattack, or just avoid them and counterattack. But we do now have more Adepts into the natural, and now it's this time it's Solar who is going to be out of place. The Adepts get into the main once more, killing already 4 drones. Double Oracle looking at that drone line, licking their lips, being like, ah, yeah. Oh, there it is. Not as dramatic, though, as the Queens did a great job being the protectors, but the drones did move back into the Adepts. The Adepts did not shade out, and now will be recalled. Probably a better use for them. 2 out of 3 will survive. 2 Oracles still alive, and that did help make up for the denied 3rd Nexus. That was the string of events you were really hoping for as the Protoss player. And, well, that can happen when Solar does leave his units out on the other side of the map. Little tit for tat right there. Except I think that ShoWTimE's tat was a little bit bigger. I don't know if we're getting some type of weird innuendo at this point, but the point is he did a lot of damage. Solar's drone count went down to an abysmal state. He is quickly trying to recover that, just pumping out as many drones as possible. But he was really supposed to be at this drone count this entire time, right? Basically matching the Protoss or even a little ahead of times. So that's a bummer for him, for sure. Stalkers obviously alluding to the fact that Blink is the research of choice. +1 is on the way. All 6 gases are being taken, though, so we're not going to have some super expand, super gateway-based mass charge lot play like Hero did bring back into the fold, 2-3 years ago at this point. We are going to go into Temple Archives, Archons, Storms, all that good stuff. Double Oracle still alive and still doing a great job scouting. I want to know exactly what Solar's plan is. If Solar's plan was to be aggressive, which it could have been, right? Ling Hydra attacking into ShoWTimE. It just feels like it's really delayed. It does not feel as scary if there is an attack planned. And if there's not an attack planned, then ShoWTimE will get to a pretty good army. Stalker, Charge, Archon, Storm. Up against Solar's currently, again, only Ling Hydra. No Ultralisk. No Lurkers. No Banelings. It's not that it's not a fearsome army when it can be, obviously. Ling Hydra can be quite the damage dealer, but it's also kind of glass cannon-y, especially if Storms are going to make an appearance. ShoWTimE being a little aggressive on creep, already cleared up most of it. Knows that he has Oracles and a Stasis Trap to fall back to. Now that's wonderful against Ling only, but as we do have Hydra starting to accumulate here, I think this is a little dangerous. A little. The Stasis Traps hopefully would have saved him if Solar was more prepared, but he was still building up his army at that time. At this point, Solar does have 4 bases, 63 drones, which is not a terribly convincing economy. It's not like he's macroing out of control right now. No, he is going for the attack. But like I said, it just doesn't feel as fearsome as it should. Not with the big delay on getting to the optimal amount of drones. And ShoWTimE is just seeing this coming, man. Look at this. Look at this. Jesus Christ. I mean, I think even without all the static defense, he would have been fine. But now he's grabbing all this static defense, and there's no way this is going to work for Solar. Solar already... he didn't even scout this, but I think he just knows this isn't going to work as in win. It could work as in give him an opportunity, but it's not going to win him the game. Definitely not. So he is moving on behind this. He did add on those drones, getting up to 70+. But ShoWTimE, this is kind of giving ShoWTimE a bit of a green light. Not just to chase after these units as he is doing, but perhaps more. To actually go across the map and stop. Oh, Jesus. Yeah, Solar just taps out, man. ShoWTimE didn't even have to move across the map before Solar was... He's already given up. The light faded from his eyes like 2 or 3 minutes ago. GG's. What looked like a bad start for ShoWTimE turned into a wonderful post-start. And then he just carried through. Easy win there. Easier win than usual. Game 2 will be on Ultra Love. Top right ShoWTimE, bottom left Solar. ShoWTimE, not the most consistent when it comes to this immediate probe scout / block, but this series he is being very consistent with that. Maybe realizes it does throw off Solar, maybe a little more than some other Zergs. Maybe just making sure that he mixes it up so that he has practice in all starts. And, you know, there's a possibility he's doing this to, you know, add some more effectiveness to an adept attack, which he's not particularly well known for, but you should be throwing out every once in a while. It's obviously going to be blocked. Not much that Solar can do about that. Solar is going to have to once again concede the natural, take the third. It's just, it's not, it's, it can contribute to the other bad stuff that happened last game, but we're not really ready to blame it on this. But it can, you know, the queens having to walk and maybe temporarily off creep can affect their defense against either the adepts or the oracles, right? And usually that's something Zerg is really good about, is making sure all of the hatcheries are connected by creep. But it takes a little while. Some maps are worse than others as well for that. And then all that drone mining that is lost on the transfer of drones in such a long distance. It does seem, you know, when you kind of add up all the potential problems of taking the third as your natural, it does seem like it's worth it every single game. But Protoss don't do it every single game, so they're you know, must not be that dramatic. They do give up a little bit of their own economy, of course, sending out really 2 probes, actually. If you don't play Protoss, maybe you haven't picked up on this, but the first probe goes out lickety-split. That's an entire probe gone from basically second 1 of the game. That's a decent amount of lost mining. But then the second probe is the one that's going to the natural to build shit. And it's a distance for that probe as well. So then you have 2 probes that are either not mining or sub-optimally mining, at least until that nexus is done. But it does seem more annoying for the Zerg. Provided the Protoss doesn't forget to build anything on the low ground here. Not that I've ever done that. Does seem more annoying for the Zerg player. Another Stargate opener, probably into those oracles. It would be a change-up. It could be a 1-2 punch for ShoWTimE to do something like 1 Oracle in the Twilight Council, Resonant Glaives. Just not usually his thing. Solar's main goal right now is just not take as much damage. It wasn't the first 2 adepts that did the damage. It was the combo triple adept 2 Oracle that did the damage a little later on. ShoWTimE possibly not even going to try with the first 2 adept harassment, although a second one is on the way. It might stay at home. This one might go back home. He did have that blip on his third nexus. That could be improved. You could get that down immediately as opposed to grabbing 2 drones for 2 adepts, which was not worth it. This is the best streamer portrait setup location I've seen after a decade of watching Twitch. This is actually usually what I do, so that's good. I mean, I absolutely hate streams that are just cluttered. You know, I can't find my ego big enough to make my camera bigger. I hate all the flashing text and stuff on some people's screens. But I will say that, you know, it works for some people, apparently. Some streamers out there have like 50% of the screen to the actual game, and they're as popular as hell, so I don't know. So far, not a lot of damage found, but also less damage attempted. The adepts did stay at home. They were prioritizing the safety of the Nexus over those attempts to kill the drones. Even though the second attempt was good. Still, you know, it's always a bit of a risk. Twilight Council and Forge is on the way. We're going to go back into that blink. Probably. It could be Charge Archon. 2 oracles. Looking at that natural. Not a terribly good idea, though. Might want to... Yeah, they grabbed 1 drone who had, for some godforsaken reason... Why? Gone on the backside of the minerals. Stupid drones. Adepts. Oh, adepts were coming across the map. I missed them. They were fast little devils. The adepts did come from the natural third base, sorry, over to Solar's main, which they will grab 3-ish drones. staying in the main was the better idea, as the Lings weren't ready to respond. It could be 4 drones, should be 4, might be 5, might be 5. It was 9 in total, because the Oracle swooped in and killed some more when I was not looking. 9 drones, total of 10 right there, and the Adepts were the only loss. That's pretty good. It's similar, but not exactly equal to the last game, actually. Last game, when a similar number of drones died, it might have been at an earlier time, or Solar might have made more Lings. He did, after all, do that run-by on the 3rd. Point is, he did not dip below 50. And that's, I believe, what he did. He got down to, like, 45, I think, in the last game. What is this from? This is from a Wardy TV event. I don't know which one. But it's only, I think, a week old. Like a week and a half old or something. Blink was the choice, by the way. +1 also on the way. Oracle's continuing to do their scouting. Once again, Solar going with the Ling Hydra. He does seem to like this quite a bit in PvZ from the ones that we have cast of him. Now, last game, it was... there wasn't a lot of hope in the push. The way that the opener worked out, then ShoWTimE scouted it and was totally, even overly prepared for it. But this time, I think we already have a difference. The 6-ish drones that were actually added in this game to not dip as far down as he did last, I think is really important. Now, he's still below ShoWTimE in drones, and that could be a problem. But I just think that his attack is actually going to have a little bit more bite to it. ShoWTimE will have to respect it as much as he did last game. Solar not going to try and chase after these stalkers, so they are going to get some freebies on the creep. Knowing that the stasis traps certainly are behind them, he actually is going to avoid the most obvious location to push through. And Solar, you sneaky little devil. ShoWTimE didn't see this at all. ShoWTimE has no idea. This should be your red flag. Why is there no army protecting the 3rd base? Where did it go? Oh, there it is. Over into the natural. Solar was going to have a pretty good time, I would say, actually handling the stalkers, but finding them completely out of position, well, that just makes life way easier. Cybernex Core is killed, so no more stalker warp-ins. Charge is not done. Storm is not done. Everything that ShoWTimE could actually produce is not very effective right now. 5 probes have gone down, but that's just the start. It's the tip of the iceberg here. Solar knows he's got an opportunity. Even when Storm finally finishes, there just won't be enough to combo with the Storm. And this was all about 30 seconds before ShoWTimE was going to be very prepared. 30 seconds is the difference of ShoWTimE probably pulling back to defend with the stalkers, right? It is the difference of Storm, charge, being actually completed. More units would have been warped in. But he just completely missed the army. Completely missed it. Spent all of his Oracle energy and attention on the front lines. Next game, I wouldn't be surprised if ShoWTimE makes sure that he leaves an Oracle stasis trap back at his natural. Just to make sure that never happens again. And now it's tied up 1-1. In the top, yes, top left it is ShoWTimE. In the bottom right it is Solar. Still on Team Falcons, by the way. ShoWTimE, as far as I know, is teamless, right? Big let him go a couple of months ago at this point, actually. Which we knew was coming. He knew it was coming as well, actually. I talked to him at Katowice last year, and he talked about how Big had only agreed for like a 6-month renewal or something like that. So it actually seemed like they kept him on even longer than they initially said, but yep, eventually moved out of StarCraft. So I don't think anyone else has picked him up yet, but Falcons, if you don't know, is the frankly, it's a Saudi Arabia team, and you know, there's kind of a blunt way to put it, but it's the truth. The team that is made by Saudi money completely. They picked up a lot of really good players across all of the esports that happen at Esports World Cup, so that they can win the club championship, which is kind of funny because it's just like money going back into the pocket. But aside from that, the good news is they continue to support StarCraft. So I think there is actually a rumor that Solar might have been let go from them a couple months ago, but clearly didn't pan out, so that's good news. And then, yeah, like I said earlier on in the cast, if you guys missed it, you didn't hear it from me, but there might be some good news on the horizon as far as the StarCraft 2 tournament goes. But yeah, he's still on Falcons. Picked up last year. ShoWTimE, once again, denying that natural. Such is life. Such is being a Zerg player. Will he change things up? It is not a series of events in which I would encourage ShoWTimE to change things up. Not that he should ever listen to me. But first game, very good game for ShoWTimE. Like I said, one of the easier games he's probably had versus Solar. Contributed mostly because of the oracles and the adept harassment. That just put him in such a prime position that the next problem would have been defending the all-in from Solar, and he did that totally fine. Second game, total out of position problem. 100%. If he knew that army was heading that direction, the Stalkers would have done a much better job of slowing that push down. The Stalkers would have done a great job blinking away from the Lings. The Hydras wouldn't be able to catch up quite a bit. We're talking like 10 seconds of buying time, but that's enough time to get the Oracles back home and also build stasis traps to prepare some shield batteries so they hopefully finish during the battle. To obviously have the Stalkers actually defend around a location rather than having to be recalled at the last second. It's the timing. There's like 20, 30 seconds in that last game gone different ways that would have changed the outcome completely. So this is not a series in which you look at ShoWTimE and you go, poor ShoWTimE. He's going to die to the Korean Zerg. Silly European. No, not at all. I mean, so far this actually looks like a very fair series. Solar had a kind of... embarrassing is a strong word, but he had a really lame loss, and then ShoWTimE had a really lame loss. You know, you didn't find the army going out of position. You smack yourself in the forehead once, then you move on with life. So for game 3, double Oracle, maybe even the Adept pressure once more after making sure the Nexus comes back alive. I mean, it could look totally identical. And it's fair game for both players. I mean, Solar might be the one who's even a little bit more scared, but I don't even give that much credit, right? The second game, he had an easy task because he found his opponent completely out of position, but that's not guaranteed. In the first game, he had a bad game because he was out of position himself and lost a bunch of drones. That's also not guaranteed. I mean, no one really has a clear path here to victory. We are getting, I want to say that's a faster Twilight Council, but maybe it's not. It is still 2 Oracles, so it's 2 Adepts instead of, I think he went up to 3 or 4. Oh, there you go, there's more. But still, no, this is a faster Twilight Council. I'm not exactly sure why, if I'm being honest, but it is, because it's not coming down with the Forge. That's what I'm looking at right now. So the Twilight Council and the Forge came down at the exact same time in the last 2 games. Really pointing to a Blink build most of the time. Maybe Charge, but then also pointing to more of a macro game. This is a very fast Twilight Council. It is going to grab Resident Enclaves. It's not 2 base Resident Enclaves. It's 3 base after the 2 Oracles, like I said. But it could still be the surprise that ShoWTimE needs to knock Solar on his ass. Did he have to do it? My argument was no, he didn't have to, but should he? Well, I also said in this cast that everyone should throw in an Adept build against a Zerg player every once in a while, and that's what ShoWTimE's doing. So will Solar pick up on this? Now, the first thing he might notice is a lack of Stalkers. You're going to just warp in Stalkers, usually on the 3rd base, because it's going to help defend any run-bys. And that's going to be scouting given to the Zerg. Wow, you have a lot of Stalkers, you probably have Blink. So far, the Adepts that are actually being warped in have not been scouted. They come across the map without a Warp Prism, though. So they're not as scary. But right now, yeah, they would have been scary if they got into the natural. Good wall there from Solar as he builds up his Roach count. Queens might go down here, which opens up the opportunity for the Oracles, but the wall will hold And the Adepts got to figure out what else they can possibly do to help out. Well, fourth base could be canceled. They are going to head over to that third. Only a couple of roaches to help out here, but the drones are pulled swiftly. 3 drones going down is not what ShoWTimE is looking for. It needs to find more damage. They go into the natural. They don't go into the natural. The block was meant to be had. It is not had, but the natural was kind of safe because the Adepts couldn't actually shade into the mineral line. If they don't shade close to the mineral line, they're not very effective. Not when the person has an army. So that would have been a waste. ShoWTimE's cancel on the shade was the right move, even though he didn't get walled out. And unfortunately, the Adepts didn't do as much damage as I think they need to. It's hard to say. 8 drones, and he saved 6 Adepts. Solar had to obviously respond to the Adepts, so he wasn't droning this entire time. But he does get thrown down to 53 drones. His plan here to go for an attack still seems like a very good one. He might have a little bit more trouble reinforcing as much as he usually would thanks to the Adept attack, but I don't know if ShoWTimE's going to have enough army. And ShoWTimE, I don't think, realized what's happening either. This army on the front lines, once again, missing the move-outs of his opponents. He will not be in position. His natural will already be ransacked by the time he responds. The Cybernetics Corps, once again, could be the target. ShoWTimE might have to just lean into this base trade. Wants to go for the block, is not going to be able to. Solar on top of it, also brought the Queens, of course, could start creep. ShoWTimE is going to recall, but that's so awkward. He does recall to the main, so he will have this high ground and this ability to blink reflexively, but his natural is totally destroyed. Cybernetics Corps is gone, gateways are gone, Robo could be killed. Nexus might not be targetable. Solar's not ready to try and go after that quite yet. He's going to go after the third, kill the reinforcements there. Stasis traps being put down in an emergency situation. Love the Immortal being produced while it's up and running. Use it. But the army is everywhere. ShoWTimE supply, currently half of that in army, which isn't impossible for Protoss to hold against, but they usually have all of their army together, bulked up, against shield batteries with some cannons to help out. Creep spread non-existent, right? This is a much different and much worse scenario for ShoWTimE. And that might just be it for him. Charge not done, so these Zealots not looking super hot. More reinforcements on the way for Solar, who's already killed a lot of probes. Might be able to kill the third Nexus. If he doesn't do that, he's just going to kill the army anyway. Once again, ShoWTimE attacking and not realizing that he is being attacked. Ruins his chances of a good defense. And that'll be that for game number 3 and the series. Solar will win this Wardy TV something or another tournament that was happening. I think it was a group, actually, so he advances out of his group perhaps because of this. But it's definitely game over. ShoWTimE, very frustrated with the last 2 games, no doubt. Just being out of position. I think if he had stayed at home and been surprised, he would have had a better chance, but choosing to attack in and having a recall makes things so awkward. GG's.